A shocking revelation from Evander Holyfield has hinted many of some of the most hidden secrets about the matchup on July 20th, especially as regards the relationship between Evander Holyfield and Jake Paul and the part he plays in Jake Paul's career. As the build-up to the match between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul gets more heated, Evander Holyfield has become the latest person to give a shocking revelation regarding the upcoming matchup. And despite his longtime friendship with Mike Tyson, he is looking to be among Jake Paul's cornermen as he fights against the former undisputed world heavyweight champion. Let's get in. Plenty of dramas have plagued the upcoming bout between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. And with July 20th being only 4 months away, there seems to be so much more to expect from both boxers. So far, the most talked about aspects of the build-up has been the training sessions of both boxers. Their training sessions have become so much of a talking point that many have tagged the fight the Battle of Training Sessions. To make this more controversial, Mike Tyson has been uploading daily videos of his training sessions from his training camp.
We're getting ready for you.
While his training sessions have made him look more ready for the matchup and have attracted more supporters on his side, Jake Paul is having none of it. He has responded with videos of his own training sessions as well. And despite the age difference, an undeniable fact is that Mike Tyson's sessions have proven to be more intense and effective than Jake Paul's. It then raised several questions about the possibility of a 57-year-old coming back into the ring for the first time in 19 years and beating up a 27-year-old. However, one thing all of these have done to the upcoming matchup is to raise expectations and heighten the anticipation of supporters for the bout. And if done properly, the bout, being Netflix's debut in live sports streaming, could set some unbreakable records on the said day.
Growing up, who was your favorite boxer?
Mike Tyson.
Mike, right?
Fuck yeah. But yes.
Because I'm going to be fighting him.
No way.
In July.
Evander Holyfield first got himself involved in the matchup after his famous old match against Mike Tyson, where he got an ear bite from Iron Mike, was featured in the video, with Jake Paul recreating the same moment that happened just a few months after his birth.
Rematch is here. Oh my goodness, he's got a bloody right ear.
And not only do I have the honor of fighting one of the two most famous boxers to ever live,
but more than just having his clip recreated, Holyfield has been getting himself more involved with Jake Paul, confirming it in a recent statement. "Yes, I've been working with Jake for this coming matchup. He's come to me to train and help him out in his bout against Tyson." Holyfield then went on to explain why he may not be seen so much in Jake Paul's training videos, saying, "I don't necessarily appear every day. Benjamin Flores is doing a great job. I just go there to teach and train him on the overlooked aspects of his game." Holyfield saying he doesn't appear every day makes the instance between Mike Tyson and Francis more understandable. When asked about the feeling of having Mike Tyson in the ring with him, Francis had this to say, "Bringing Mike Tyson into my training camp is one of the best decisions I can make to prepare for Tyson Fury. He is an idol of mine in the sport. His experience and boxing IQ will be important to honing my technique under his guidance to win this super fight. I've been wanting this fight for years, and now that it's here, I'm focused on fighting the greatest fight of my career and shocking the world on the most epic stage for the fans in Riyadh." "We are not the same size," said Francis, who reportedly weighed 290 pounds, 131.5 kilo, a year ago. "We don't have the same style. He takes that into consideration." Francis then went on to reveal how exactly he was being trained by Tyson. While he was always reachable for advice and lessons, he wasn't available every day. Francis confessed this, saying, "He's there from time to time. It's not training with Mike Tyson every day. He will come for a couple of days, teach me different stuff, and leave. How to move, how to carry your weight, how to go around and get closer, and get your punch position. There are some points that are very important and similar for everyone's style. What he is helping me to do is sharpen my style and be better and more efficient with it. Francis then went on to make Mike Tyson very proud in a matchup many believed he won. Tyson seemed so sure of his performance even begin the fight, and he performed just as Tyson predicted when he said, "He isn't a combat novice." The key will be combining his energy and combat skills into his punches and using his agility to move swiftly around the ring, then delivering the knockout blow. We're here to win. Moving on, it remains to be seen if Holyfield will have a similar impact like Tyson had on Francis, despite not appearing every day. Holyfield continued, "But Jake is doing impressively. He's performing so well. He's been using the techniques he's learnt sharply." When asked if Jake Paul chose him as a trainer because he was one of the few who beat Mike Tyson, Holyfield said, "I don't know about that. I don't really know. He only sought my help and I felt I could do that in some way. But I don't think it's about beating Tyson. Tyson wasn't the only opponent I fought. I fought many others. So I think it's because of my experience, especially my experience in different weight categories."
You got to make it do it because you know what? I'm looking to jab. So if I be jabbing, you going to try to get me right.
Holyfield also explained a profound truth to many who might be curious to understand what it takes to be a legend in any endeavor and the responsibilities that come with such status. Yeah, when you're a legend, so many people look up to you. And that's what Jake Paul is doing. He looks up to me and expects some things. It is then my responsibility to pour out myself into him. I'm not going to take boxing to the afterlife. It's just useful here. So your state as a legend is to pour out all of you into these young ones. They need to use that knowledge. It's no longer useful for me anymore. And that's the only way you live after death. When you do so much for people and they keep on doing what you taught them or what you impacted. Also, he was asked about the responsiveness of Jake Paul to the demands of heavyweight boxing, and he had this to say. "Yes, he's responding quite well. I know he has to improve on that aspect, but he's added some things to his training and diets that can help him improve. I've been helping him with that. Like I said, my experience in multiple divisions is very vital for him. So, I've been putting him through on the right things to do and what not to do." The 61-year-old remains the only boxer in history to win the undisputed championship in 2 weight classes in the 3-belt era and is the only 4-time world heavyweight champion. Beyond his defeat of Mike Tyson with the records and achievements of Evander Holyfield, it can be agreed by all that Jake Paul surely didn't make a wrong decision in choosing him as his trainer. Notwithstanding, this collaboration came after Holyfield wanted a similar bout against Jake Paul some time ago. Holyfield once claimed to be willing to take on Jake Paul in a boxing bout. However, plans for such a matchup never materialized. As at the time Holyfield pushed for the matchup, the 27-year-old boasted an undefeated professional record of 3-0 in boxing royalty, and Holyfield admitted he's been impressed with what he's seen.
You got to make it do it because you know what? I'm looking to jab. So if I be jabbing, you going to try to get me right.
Jake Paul being a guy who didn't come through amateurs, he is someone who fights now and does it as a hobby. Then, Paul was just a year into his boxing career, and he had onto the scene thanks to his relentless trash-talking and habit of calling out almost every combat sports athlete, as many as he could remember their names. Talking more about Paul, Holyfield said, "He has a little bit more weight behind how to do things because people like him are doing it for the fun of it. They are not fighting in an association which is being operated by a union such as the WBC, IBF. The thing is, it is about ego, what he's doing, people he wants to fight. If people agree to fight him, they know he's got all these followers. And if he believes he can beat me, and he gives me enough money, oh yes, I'd get in the ring with him, and I'd show people what would happen." Jake Paul had certainly managed to get people talking about him, and Holyfield was in the category of fans who thought Paul shouldn't be knocked for what he has achieved in such a short space of time. I think that's kind of wrong. You're looking at it from another perspective. In the place we live in, America, we have choices, Holyfield added. He's a popular guy, and he said, "Hey, if they let me do it my way, there's no rules or regulations. I'm a guy who brings in a lot of attention." He obviously is making other people a lot of money. That's the reason he's fighting. He's not fighting for nothing. It's something that draws people in, so he's challenging pro fighters who have an ego, obviously people who feel they can beat Jake. But when they get in there, they cannot beat him. If one looked at the numbers Paul was producing, such as breaking into the top 10 boxing PPVs of all time, one can start to see why someone like Holyfield was interested in going toe-to-toe with him. The proposed match between Holyfield and Jake Paul came after Evander Holyfield was brutally knocked out in the first round of an exhibition boxing match against Evander Belfort. Evander Holyfield, after the match, was advised never to step into a boxing ring again. The living legend was pulverized, dropped, and stopped by former UFC champion Evander Belfort in the first round of their scheduled 8-round fight at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood. Holyfield stepped in on short notice after the golden boy of boxing, Oscar de la Hoya, tested positive for COVID-19. The fight was then moved from California to Florida because Holyfield was unable to get licensed in California, and it probably should have stayed that way. Instead, the former heavyweight champion stood no chance against Belfort, who wasted little time pouncing on him. Holyfield's age and deteriorating reflexes were evident from the opening seconds as Belfort landed an overhand punch that sent him stumbling backward. Shortly after, Belfort put Holyfield down with a left uppercut. Holyfield got to his feet, but was met with a barrage of punches that caused the referee to rescue him from further damage at 1:49 of the opening frame. It has been a decade since Holyfield last fought, and although his body looked the part, his skill was certainly lacking against Evander Belfort, who was 44 years old back then. Holyfield looked for range with his jab, despite him having a very slow jab. A very, very slow jab. He missed with a slow right hand, and on the counter, Belfort landed a left hook and suddenly was all over him. Holyfield slipped and nearly fell out of the ring. It became more disastrous for Holyfield as an uppercut put Holyfield down. Belfort then jumped on Holyfield again and landed a barrage of punches. The referee had no choice but to stop it.
He got hit with everything.
Oh, the uppercut.
That was the uppercut that did it.
Yeah.
Just the reflexes, man.
It was over. Unexpectedly, Holyfield became very mad. It was surprising to everyone that he had the nerve to be mad in such defeat. Holyfield said he was never hurt and protested the stoppage. To many supporters and professionals, that was awful and everyone involved was ashamed. As a result, he went as far to suggest a potential boxing match with former rival Mike Tyson. However, this yardstick can't be used to measure Evander Holyfield's abilities, who was as old as Mike Tyson will be when he fights it out against Jake Paul on July 20th. Vitor Belfort wasn't a lackluster opponent as well. He was equally up to the task. Vitor Belfort is a Brazilian professional boxer and retired mixed martial artist who competed for the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, where he fought in the heavyweight, light heavyweight, and middleweight divisions. He is the UFC 12 heavyweight tournament champion, as well as the former UFC light heavyweight champion and Cage Rage World light heavyweight champion. Known for his explosive knockout power, Belfort is tied for 5th for the most finishes in UFC history with 14. Belfort also competed for MMA promotions, Pride FC, Strikeforce, Affliction, and Cage Rage. At the age of 19, Belfort came to the United States to compete. In his first sanctioned mixed martial arts match, an event called Super Brawl in Hawaii, his opponent was John Hess. The match began, and the young Brazilian defeated Hess in 12 seconds by knockout, despite Hess having a 7-inch height advantage and a more than 100-pound weight advantage over Belfort. Soon after, he moved on to compete in the UFC, where he was given the nickname The Phenom. He beat 2 fighters in his debut event in the UFC, winning the UFC 12 heavyweight tournament. At age 19, Belfort became the youngest fighter to score a victory inside the octagon. Belfort's next match saw him score a technical knockout against the UFC 6 runner-up Tank Abbott in a non-tournament fight, knocking Abbott down and finishing him with a ground-and-pound attack. Though he had a setback, he fought twice more in the UFC. The first of these fights was against a training partner of his, Joe Charles, whom he defeated quickly via armbar without throwing a single punch. A year later, Belfort faced rising Brazilian star and future Pride middleweight champion Wanderlei Silva. Catching Silva early with a left cross, Belfort chased him across the cage with a flurry of punches, knocking Silva out by TKO in just 44 seconds. Belfort was that good. Notwithstanding, it was believed that regardless of his records, he stood no chance against a prime Evander Holyfield. Prime Evander Holyfield fought 57 boxing matches, won 44, lost 10, drew 2, and had 1 non-contests. Of his 44 wins, 29 were knockouts. Holyfield started out professionally as a light heavyweight with a win in 6 rounds over Lionel Byram at Madison Square Garden. At the start of 1985, he won another 6-round decision over Eric Winbush in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Later on in the same year, he knocked out Fred Brown in the first round in Norfolk, Virginia, and then he knocked out Mark Rivera in 2 rounds in Texas. He moved on to cruiserweight and dominated there as well. In his first cruiserweight fight, both he and his next opponent, Tyrone Booz, moved up to the cruiserweight division for their fight in Norfolk, Virginia. Holyfield won an 8-round decision over Booz. He then went on to knock out Rick Myers in the first round in his hometown of Atlanta. He then went on to knock out 2 other fighters in the same year. The following year began with a knockout in 3 rounds over former world cruiserweight challenger Chizanda Muti, and proceeded to beat Jesse Shelby and Terry Mims before being given a world title try by the WBA cruiserweight champion Dwight Muhammad Qawi. In what was referred to as the best cruiserweight bout of the 1980s, Holyfield became world champion by defeating Qawi by a narrow 15-round split decision. He defended his title twice and went in to unify his WBA belt with the IBF belt held by Ricky Parkey, knocking Parkey in 3 rounds. With an 11-round knockout against former world champion Ossie Ocasio, he retained his belt in France. He moved up to the heavyweight after knocking out Qawi within 4 rounds in a rematch and being recognized universally as the world cruiserweight champion after defeating the lineal and WBC champion, Carlos de Leon. His first fight as a heavyweight took place when he beat former Tyson rival James "Quick" Tillis by a knockout in 5 rounds. Meanwhile, when fought Tyson, Tillis went the distance with Tyson. For his third and final bout of the year, 1988, he beat former heavyweight champion Pinklon Thomas, also by knockout, in 7 rounds. Holyfield began the following year by meeting another former heavyweight champion, Michael Dokes. This fight was named one of the best fights of the 1980 as best heavyweight bout of the 1980s. Holyfield won by a knockout in the 10th round, and then he met Brazilian champion Adilson Rodriguez, who lasted just 2 rounds. His last fight of the 1980s was against Alex Stewart, a hard-punching fringe contender. Stewart shocked Holyfield early with quick, hard punches, but eventually fell in 8. In 1990, Holyfield beat Seamus McDonough, knocking him out in 4 rounds. By this time, Holyfield had been Ring Magazine's #1 contender for 2 years and had yet to receive a shot at Tyson's heavyweight title. Within 2 years of fighting in the heavyweight category, he became the #1 contender, and his shot at the championship came against Buster Douglas, who shocked the world by defeating Mike Tyson. Douglas had defied sense to beat Mike Tyson on the 11th of February, 1990 to win all the heavyweight belts. And then, after 8 months of comfort, fame, and eating heavily, he lost his world titles to Evander Holyfield in a fight that made Holyfield the world champion in the heavyweight division. An out-of-shape Douglas came into the fight weighing 246 pounds, 15 pounds heavier than he was for the Tyson fight. Holyfield, meanwhile, came into the fight at a lean and fit 208 pounds and dominated the sluggish Douglas, winning both the first and second rounds. In the 3rd round, Douglas attempted to hit Holyfield with an uppercut. Not only did Douglas telegraph the punch, he missed Holyfield completely and knocked himself off balance. Holyfield countered with a straight right to Douglas's chin, knocking the champion flat on his back as referee Mills Lane counted him out. Douglas remained on the canvas for several seconds after the knockout, and needed to be helped up twice before he got to his corner. All these qualities, remarkable victories, and mind-blowing techniques of Evander Holyfield must have attracted the attention of Jake Paul, making him seek the training services of the American boxing legend. With Holyfield on his side, Jake Paul will be looking to give Mike Tyson another major defeat like the one in 1997. Mike Tyson, on the other hand, must be prepared not just to stop Jake Paul, but to stop Holyfield from giving him a third defeat, 2 as a boxer and 1 as a coach. To stay updated with the latest news in the world of boxing, kindly subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. And if you did enjoy this video, do well to hit the like button after watching. Until next time, peace out.